We requested from law enforcement any and all information about the incident, including the video from inside the elevator. The video was not made available to us, and no one in our office has seen it until today. Now, in response to inquiries from ABC News, the New Jersey State Police says the statement from the NFL cannot be accurate. New Jersey State Police spokesperson said, quote, investigations of the incidents on the casino floor are handled by the New Jersey State Police, but this occurred in the elevator and was handled by the Atlantic City Police Department. We never had the video. All right, guys, obviously contradicting statements. Even before yesterday's developments, last week, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell apologized for how the league handled the situation. Now this video, yesterday, Stephen A. Smith, should the commissioner's job be in jeopardy?
No, it should not. Having said all of that, let me be clear. It is my personal belief, and only my personal belief, Skip, that the National Football League is lying. I'm going to say it again. I think they're lying through their teeth. And what I mean by that is that don't give the impression that you've did your due diligence in order to get the video. You have FBI agents, you have other law enforcement officials that are members of the security department of a National Football League that is a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate, which stands to reason that individuals who work for you on the security front are elite individuals. To make the implications that the NFL has made in terms of putting in the request and doing what they could to get a hold of this video, what you're essentially doing is throwing your security department under the bus. Now, either they are incompetent or the NFL's lying. And I believe that I'm going to believe that the NFL is lying before I believe that the NFL security department is incompetent, because the NFL is too elite to hire incompetent individuals to be ahead of its security. Skip Bayless, I've been covering the NBA for about 20 years. There's an individual who is now retired. You know this name when I say it. His name is Horace Balmer. He is the former head of security for the NBA. I have known him for 2 decades. Let me be very, very clear. And I'm going to put myself on Front Street. This dude is retired, chilling out, owns a club, has a spot in Harlem. You know, life is kind of good for him. Presided over the NBA, Commissioner Stern's right-hand man in security for the better part of 2 decades. If this had happened to the NBA, Horace Balmer would have had this video before sundown, the day it happened. This dude is that connected.
Sure.
I don't believe for 1 second that the NFL doesn't have somebody up in there that is that connected. Not when you have the New York Jets and the New York Giants right in East Rutherford, New Jersey, playing at MetLife Stadium, and the Philadelphia Eagles playing right down the turnpike in Philadelphia, because you got 3 teams in the local area with Atlantic City within a 45-minute to an hour proximity.
Yep.
Really? The casino? This ain't Vegas. This is Atlantic City. It's the closest thing to Vegas. You understand the importance of being connected to that particular geographical area, because you certainly don't want dudes gambling. You don't want dudes getting themselves in trouble at a casino, whether they're being inebriated or whatever the case may be, running into unsavory characters that hang out at casinos. You don't want that. So there is no way on earth that I wasn't willing to go this far yesterday, but reading the NFL's response, reading what the PD in Atlantic City had to say, or New Jersey rather, listening to some of the things that the NFL said, I'm just sitting there. And then keep this in mind as well. You didn't have the video, but the Baltimore Ravens had the information, and the information appeared to be accurate. Well, if you have the information, okay, the video helps substantiates it and definitely provides a greater impact. But in the end, Skip Bayless, the bottom line is very, very simple. The National Football League, in my opinion, looks as if they're lying when they say they put forth their due diligence. I'm not saying that they're lying about seeing the video.
All right.
That's not what I'm saying.
Okay,
I'm saying they're lying about, we put forth our due diligence. We did everything we could to get a hold of this video. There's no way on earth you did that.
Okay.
Not if you're the National Football League.
Okay, now we're on the same page. Originally, I was going to cross-examine your first point about they lied about, you know.
No.
about not having seen the video.
No, I wasn't saying that.
I got it. I got it. To me, this commissioner didn't drop the ball. He chose never to pick the ball up in this situation. So, to me, what we're dealing with here is what I would call willful negligence on his and the league's part, premeditated negligence, where the league decided we're just going to steer clear here. We're going to basically choose not to get involved. We're going to choose to look the other way, just the way they have historically on every big domestic violence case that has come down their path.
Okay.
So in this case, do I think the commissioner's job should be in jeopardy? I do. Do I think it will be in jeopardy? I do not, because I think these owners really like this commissioner because he's kept them all together. They get along well. We just had a statement from your favorite owner, Mr. Kraft in New England, who said on CBS this morning that the way Roger has handled the situation himself, coming out with the mea culpa in his statement a couple of weeks ago and setting a very clear policy on how we conduct ourselves in the NFL, I thought it was excellent. Well, that's probably going to be a ringing endorsement that you'll hear from most of the top owners. Maybe they're all complicit in this. I have to believe that all the top decision makers along this trail of the last month or so chipped in and chimed in on how this should be handled. Because don't you agree with me, and I know Adam Schefter said it to open the show yesterday, this is the worst this league has ever looked.
Yeah.
Has it ever looked worse? I know Adam brought up something that I lived through, which was Pete Rozell's one regret as commissioner. We're going way back. But his decision to play football on the Sunday after John F. Kennedy was assassinated on November 22nd, 1963, which was a Friday. So that was his, so to speak, cross to bear. Roger Goodell's had a bunch of incidents here. We had Bountygate, we had Spygate, we had the Riley Cooper, we've had HGH, or lack thereof, testing, we've had the replacement refs, and now we come to this. This is the worst taint of all for a league that prides itself so much on its image and its brand and the strength thereof with its fans. Don't you think that the NFL has never looked worse?
I don't think the NFL has ever looked worse, but at the same time, I'm not of the mindset that Roger Goodell's career should be in jeopardy, and here is why. It is unpopular to take this position, but it is what it is. Here's the reality. Even though this is not just about business as usual, because we understand how heinous this is, you also have to take into account a couple of things Roger Goodell had to take into consideration. You're the commissioner of the league. You're worried about the league's name being sullied, although some people would say in this world that we live in, you can't be concerned about that. Of course he's going to be concerned about that. He's the commissioner. It's one thing if Janae Palmer at the time, was going to raise holy hell, press charges, and do all of this other stuff, then it's unavoidable. But if during your investigation you reach the conclusion that clearly her and her now husband is working things out, he's recognized the errors of his ways, and as a result, we're going to move in this different direction, you know, I think it definitely should have been more than 2 games. Some would say it should have been, obviously, now that we've seen the video, it should be incredibly severe. Yeah. We also know the NFL should have seen the video. But let's not put our blinders on and act like in the world of big business, where you believe that something can emphatically and profoundly, affect your bottom line, right? That it's not going to give you cause to pause. Okay. Now, it doesn't give me cause to pause. It doesn't give you cause to pause because we ain't the commissioner. We don't answer to 32 NFL owners. And we're not worried about the bottom line of the business. I don't think the NFL should be either with all the billions that they make. But when you reach the point, or in my mind, having regressed to a point where you're actually charging artists to perform on Super Bowl weekend as opposed to paying them, everything about you appears to be a money grab. So if you're that fixated on the bottom line, then the likelihood is that anything that potentially compromises the bottom line is something that you're going to be sensitive to. I'm not saying that's how Roger Goodell felt. I don't know. I haven't spoken to the man. We haven't heard from the man. He's the one that needs to be doing some interviews in this today, tomorrow, or etc. But it stands to reason. It makes sense as to why you could find this heinous, but at the same time, just try to get past it as quietly as you possibly can so it doesn't bring this kind of negative attention on that three-letter brand you're so protective.
Okay, just a quick point of order
Sure.
on the Janae point that you made. Remember, as we've all learned, if we should have known this already, many victims in the past of domestic violence have stood by their men for the wrong reason.
Last hour, Skip. It's on USA Today right now.
Yeah, we're
We're going to get to that.
Show that
We're going to get to that. Okay, but just for the record, and in this case, Roger Goodell has one thing to fall back on, and that is the law, because he can always say, to defend himself and his job, that, well, our court of law already ruled that Ray Rice deserves no more than anger management training. They let him off with anger management. And point of order, by all reports, the prosecutor and the presiding judge saw the video that we just showed. And you let him off? Our legal system let off Ray? Are you kidding me?
Hasn't Goodell always kind of treated things separately from what the law did?
And that's
sometimes he's waited to follow, suit,
Skip,
and he can easily mirror their punishment by saying, well, gee, this to me would then only be 2 games.
But, Skip, that's where Goodell loses. Because Goodell loses from the perspective is that he has not always waited for a ruling to be handed down by the legal system. He has been on the record, in writing as well as verbally, saying that the best interest of the league it matters here, and I'm not going to wait. And in Ben Roethlisberger's case, he didn't wait, along with a few others as well. I'm not sure, if I recall correctly, Adam Pac-Man Jones, but I'm not sure about that. The point that I'm trying to make to you is that, definitively speaking, it is clear that he hasn't always felt the need to wait for the legal system to take to take action before he's taken action. So that argument doesn't hold weight here.
Okay, but it did give him, if he needs it, an excuse in this case to say, well, gee, I just followed suit of our legal system here, right?
Yes, it does.
Okay, if it comes down to push or shove, whether he's going to keep his job, and trust me, if Roger Goodell were the president of a lot of other companies in this country, he would have just lost his job.
Well, but I will say this. He made a mistake. He made a bad decision. He dropped the ball. But by and large, when you consider the agenda that Roger Goodell has had, the crusade that he has been on in terms of cleaning up the sport in a bevy of ways, regardless of how egregious this may appear, considering his position and his body of work, I do not believe that Roger Goodell's job should be in jeopardy. He made a mistake. He dropped the ball, plain and simple.
Did you love the way he handled Spygate? Remember that? The missing tapes? Do you remember how they disappeared? I'm not so sure about that one. Did you love the way he handled Bountygate?
I didn't love the way he's handled several situations, but I also like the way he handled many others. He's not perfect. We understand that.
Did you like the Riley Cooper situation?
Well, listen, to me personally, I look at the Riley Cooper situation. Again, I don't want to divert too far away from where we're going, but you and I disagreed on the whole Riley Cooper situation. You thought he should have been banned from the league for at least a year. You thought he should have been suspended.
I just thought the Eagles should have gotten rid of him.
They thought the Eagles should have got rid of him. I thought otherwise. You sitting there, you're inebriated, you're at a country music concert, you spew some racial epithets. I didn't like it. I was ticked off about it like other black folks were. But the man apologized. If the man apologized, give somebody a chance to make amends. People make mistakes.
All right, so let's go back to Ray Rice, who is terminated from the Ravens. He's also suspended by the league indefinitely. Moving forward, should he ever play again in the NFL?